Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another round of Bases Picks. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. As you guys can see, I'm not home just yet, but I am back in the UK. Apologies if the room sounds mad echoey. That's pretty much how it always is when you're hotels and whatnot. But also very sorry to those of you who were expecting the picks last week. But as I did say, like, I tried to do videos where I was at, no data, the Wi-Fi weren't great. Yeah, it was long to try and upload anything, so had a week off for that. But look, we're gonna do this one. To be honest, there's only one card that's really worth talking about, so we're really gonna focus on that and we're gonna skim through everything else. But with that being said, let's get to the picks. So look, there's a card that starts later on today, which is the Matchroom offering on the Zone, which is being headlined by Dalton Smith and Matthew Germaine. If I'm totally honest, that entire card to me is shockingly bad. I want to be very honest. It looks like next gen level fights, you know, people just sort of bringing people along. Giorgio Vizioli versus Mexican Baker might be the most fun fight on the card for as long as it lasts, although Kane Baker was supposed to retire about 4 fights ago at this point. Josh Warrington's on the card, trying to get back into winning ways after, you know, having one win in his last 6 fights. Who else is on the card? So there's Giorgio Vizioli, there's Josh Warrington, Ryan Kelly and Kevin Ajarko. That might be an okay fight. You know what? We're not bothering with any of that. I don't have enough willpower to go through all of those fights. Matthew Germaine and Dalton Smith. Now they keep saying this is the fight before the fight. That pretty much tells you that this is nothing but a keep busy fight for Dalton Smith. Obviously won his last fight in 1 round fashion, and while I don't think I expect him to win this fight as easily, I do think it's going to be a standard victory against Matthew Germaine. Germaine is a good operator, tough game guy, has good tactical abilities, and will definitely try to make the fight an awkward affair and try to nick rounds. But the lack of power, the lack of real precisional punching, I think will ultimately be the thing that sort of gets in his way, because Dalton Smith will, while he won't load up, he will definitely look to unload heavy shots every single time he can. He will look to hurt Matthew Germaine with pretty much each punch. So I do expect Dalton Smith to basically just overroar him, wear him out, wear him down over the first sort of 3 to 4 rounds. And I'm expecting by sort of the 5th to 6th round that Matthew Germaine is no longer able to continue, whether that's getting counted out or whether that's being stopped by the corner, a towel being thrown in. That's kind of how I see it. The only way that fight goes any differently to that is if Dalton Smith has not been taking this training seriously. So yeah, that's my opinion on that fight. As I said, the rest of the card I think is awful. Matchroom have put out a few of these over the last few months, so I'm keeping my eye on that, to be totally honest. Okay, next in the nighttime you've got Gabriela Fundora against Marilyn Badillo. She's defending her undisputed flyweight titles, so 112 pounds. Marilyn Badillo, I believe, is 19-0-1, so 20 fights, undefeated, 1 draw in there. Gabriela Fundora is 15-0 with 7 KOs. very big puncher, very tall, statuesque girl. I believe she's 5'8" or 5'9", very tall, very lean, very lang, very sort of gangly for that weight. But I think that when she eventually decides to fill out, she's really gonna be something special all the way up to, I'd say, maybe featherweight. I think her size and her frame will give her advantage to be able to go all the way up to feather. I mean, possibly even super feather, but because she is quite thin, sort of frame wise, I don't know if packing on more than 130 might, would be advisable. That being said, undercard for here, again, isn't tremendous. Charles Conwell being on the undercard is very interesting. Obviously 21-0 with, I think, 16 KOs. Very high on Charles Conwell. I think he's a really good talent, like just knocking on the door of that sort of that world title opportunity, just about when he will get it. A thing I actually noticed the other day, Alexander Gvozdyk is actually making his comeback on this card after the decision loss that he had with David Benavidez. So he's obviously still in the game, 20-2. So is this a play to maybe build him up to put in with another sort of 175 guy? Possibly interesting, but it would be good to see him back on there. Charles Conwell, he's facing, I think he's facing a guy called Javier Pedro or something like that. I know the guy, I think, is at 21-4, but I haven't done enough research on him to be able to give an accurate prediction. But I will say that I expect Conwell to win, probably inside the distance, maybe to the middle to later rounds. But I really like Charles Conwell as a fighter, so we'll see how he does. In terms of Badillo and Fundora, I mean, look, Badillo's a mover. Something that Gabriela Fundora does struggle with is movement, because she does have to set her feet, get her feet planted to be able to throw out her jab and the backhand. She's perfect with people that either come forward, come to her, or people that will try and stand in the pocket and trade with her. Even though she can obviously get caught, she's very good at keeping range. But when it comes to having to turn and sort of, you get those mechanics moving along with a fighter, that's where she has her most problems. And I think because of that, Badillo, especially in those first few rounds, will cause her some pretty big problems. I just don't feel like Fundora will be able to get set early, but those problems only persist for as long as Badillo can move. And I think Fundora will start to be able to find ways where she can cut off those exits, stop Badillo from being able to move in and out of range. And I think from about round 4-5 onwards, that's when Fundora starts to actually close her down, starts to attack the body, attack the head. And then I think she does administer a pretty nasty beating from about round 4-5 onwards. And I think from there, she manages to go through the gears, get enough of those punches out all the way until, say, maybe the 7th to the 8th. And then that's when I think the fight gets stopped, somewhere between the 7th and 8th round. So that's my opinion on the undisputed featherweight title fight. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see if I'm right. Okay, look, let's get to the card that makes this weekend worthwhile. If we're going to be honest, I think this is obviously the best card of the weekend, which ends up being Ben Whittaker versus Liam Cameron, 2 resurgents taking place on Easter Sunday. It's not often, especially these days, that Ben Shalom has the best card of a weekend when you've got all the competitors together, but kudos, this is a pretty good one. We're going to start from Tyler Denny versus Elvis Aorg. Look, you guys know me and Tyler were cool. I saw him yesterday. I was supposed to do an interview with him. He had to go get food. He was hungry. I probably will see him today, so I might be able to pick up with him just before the fight. He's confident, but Elvis Aorg is also very confident. Now, Elvis is a guy that has campaigned in several different weight classes. He's fought as high as, I think, light heavy before, but he's also fought as low as 154. Nigerian, being, in sort of those countries when sometimes they just take opportunities and they fight in between weight classes. So I feel like he is probably the naturally bigger of the two normally. He's used to fighting bigger guys than Tyler Denny. And while Tyler is a very solid guy, he's not like the biggest of punchers. I think that's something that may not necessarily worry Elvis that much. I feel like he'll be like, well, I took most of Callum Simpson's hardest shots for 5-6 rounds. I don't see there's any reason why I'd be worried about yours. Now, the problem here, Tyler is fundamentally the better boxer, but Tyler likes to get in close. He likes to bang to the body. He likes to, be on the inside and operate in that mid-range to inside of a fight. That is also where Elvis is going to be at his most dangerous. He definitely punches a lot harder than Tyler does. And I'm worried that if Tyler decides to employ those tactics, he could end up getting out-muscled and out-fought, or maybe just outlanded by that one shot. He got caught high on the head against Hamza Shiraz, got scrambled early, took his legs away. I think that in terms of mechanical punching, Hamza is a lot cleaner, more precise, but I feel like Elvis Aorg actually throws a lot more of himself into every shot. Tyler can't afford to get hit in this fight, but I think he's going to. I have been debating whether I see an upset here. Put it this way, of all the fights that are on this card, I think this is the most likely to be an upset. However, because of Tyler's penchant for having better skills and being able to adapt, he can fight in more than one way. And maybe after the Hamza Shiraz fight, there's probably a chance that he decides that he's maybe not going to take as many chances as maybe he was doing before. I do think he will be able to navigate the fight and win a points decision. So I'm going to go for a unanimous decision for Tyler Denny, although I say that with minimal confidence at this point because this is a very, very intriguing fight for me. On a side note, Elvis Aorg looks like Getz. He actually looks like a cross between Getz and Amor Williams. It's quite weird. You see his face, you understand what I mean. Anyway, so there's that. You've got Lee Cutler and Sam Eggington. Now look, this is just this fight got added last minute to the card, but again, really good fight. Sam Eggington's never been in a boring fight. There was a period of time, I think I was told that someone said that the boxer didn't want him on cards or something, like he wasn't TV friendly enough, or he wasn't a good enough name. I don't know, I can't remember who said that when that came around, but look, he's back now. He's like, what, 20, I think he's like 29-9 or something like that, 26-9 as a pro, but he always brings action. There's been a lot of disputed fights that he's lost as well. Lee Cutler's 15-1. This one is hard for me to call. It's literally because it came on the card so last minute, I haven't really done much in ways of really analyzing and seeing who wins and how they win. But just due to freshness, I'm going to go with Cutler to win. I'm going to go with Cutler to win on points. It could very well be a split decision, but I think maybe just the lack of battle damage that he's had compared to Sam Eggington, I think is just going to be what sort of takes him over the line. Fraser Clark versus Ebenezer Tete. Now, we don't know what Fraser's got left. His mindset and the way he's been talking to people and acting is very sort of hostile recently. Obviously, everyone said, look, he needs to retire. I said I don't think I'd ever see him fight again after the injury, to then find out a couple of weeks after that, where he said that he had suffered that same injury before. He goes, look, it is what it is. Like, I'm a warrior. This is the game. But to me, I can't see someone take that injury not once but twice now, and that doesn't affect you, and you're not worried about, well, can it happen to me again? While I don't think Ebenezer Tete is going to be the person to maybe ask those questions, this fight, being that it's his first fight back, will be interesting to see. Does he allow himself to get hit? Does he become overly defensive in those moments? Does he not let his hands go in the exchange just in case he gets caught? This is going to be a very, very interesting fight. Now, Tete, obviously, I think Dillian Whyte made Ebenezer Tete look much better, or much more of a threat than he really should be. Interesting fact, I was going through Tete's box rec. Obviously, I wasn't expecting to see a bunch of names I knew, but what I did find out is that Ebenezer Tete 8 years ago was fighting at light heavyweight. And for the majority of his career, he was also fighting in the 190s as a cruiser. Well, I think he was still technically a heavyweight fighting in Ghana, but he was fighting at like 190 pounds, 194 pounds. The fight before Daniel Dubois, he was fighting, I think, as 198 pounds. Then he went to 218 for Dubois. The fight after Dubois, I think he'd had like 11 months out of the ring. And then he had another fight where he's like 240. Then he had 11 months out of the ring, came back again at like 194. So this guy's not even a true heavyweight, which is very, very interesting. But Tete does have some power, and it seems like until he decides that he either doesn't want it anymore, or he, or his team maybe decide that he will give it a go. I think that I'm expecting Fraser Clark to actually do a pretty good job here. I think Fraser Clark will beat him, and beat him quite comfortably. And I think at this point he's also gonna aim to do a much better job than Dillian Whyte did. So I see Fraser Clark winning inside sort of 4 to 5 rounds. The interesting thing is gonna be what happens when he gets hit. I don't know. This may not be the fight that shows that, but psychologically, I guess we're going to find out a lot here. But yeah, Fraser Clark to win round sort of 4 to 5 is my prediction. And now, main event, Ben Whittaker, Liam Cameron, the rematch to, the grudge that we never expected to see so early in Ben Whittaker's career. Sometimes you have that domestic guy that just sort of, I guess, becomes your dance partner. This could very well be that. Liam Cameron, one thing we know about Liam Cameron, outside of obviously all of his trials and tribulations before bringing his life back to boxing and everything, he is a tough guy. He's a guy, while he's not an in-goal fighter per se, he has spent a lot of time sort of up in those gyms training. He knows how to pick it up. He knows how to work at a pace that is just fast enough that he can maintain it, but not so fast it's actually gonna blow a gas tank. And because he's very much a front foot fighter, he doesn't box on the back foot. He does like to sort of just come forward with the high guard, sometimes to bring it down, but just applying that steady pressure just to make the opponent work. And then he goes to the body, ramps it up sort of round sort of 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's how he sort of goes about his fights. Ben Whittaker tried to meet him head on in the first fight, tried to take him out early. He caught him with some good shots, but those shots just weren't really landing the way they needed to. But Ben was just throwing way too much into them. This time, I think Ben is going to more box on the back foot a bit more, and I think he's going to try to go back to basically what got him to the dance, which is the boxing, trying to make Cameron miss, trying to make him pay. I think now that he's got Andy Lee in his corner, And I don't just want to harp on the Andy Lee thing, but I think he did his best when he was with Sugar. Right, Sugar Hill, he was punching correctly. He was punching through the target. He was stopping pretty much everyone. He was stopping people that some of the other light heavyweights weren't stopping. Khalid Gradia, perfect example. Ever since he was with Joby, and he said himself, I was just doing what I wanted to do. I was choosing what we would work on every session, and clearly took the eye off the ball. He said, yeah, okay, I was always going to get another coach, but I was just taking my time. Well, I guess now he's needed to be more serious. I think the Andy Lee link up, it may not show its true dividends now, but he said, look, we announced it 6 weeks ago, but we've been working before then, so don't worry about that. But Andy Lee has turned around quite a few people as of late, so I think that could be the thing that sort of takes this one over the line. I don't think he's going to showboat as much, but I definitely do think that there will be some showboating. I think he's going to at times make Cameron look stupid, but then I also think there's going to be some times where he's under some pressure, and it's going to be how he handles that pressure. Ultimately though, I can see this fight being close in spots, definitely competitive towards the mid to later rounds, because I do think it doesn't end early. Ultimately, I do think it goes points, and I think that Ben Whittaker racks up enough of the earlier rounds that all he really has to do is just navigate the second half of the fight without sustaining too much damage or taking too many high risks. I think he might even catch Cameron a couple times and stun him, but I think he may also get caught a few times, especially to the body. I think they're banking on the fact that he's too big for light heavy, but he's too small for cruiser. He's in between that kind of space at the moment, and I think that's what they're going to try and bank on. So I definitely think Cameron's going to bang to the body and try to slow him down that way, but I think Ben's going to be too far ahead, especially with it being a 10 rounder. First five, 6, 7 rounds, I think Whittaker would have won at least 85% of them. So basically, out of 6 rounds, I think he would have won maybe the first, maybe 5 of those, nick around in the second half, you know, get a 97, 94, 96, 94 type scorecard. I do think Ben Whittaker wins this fight unanimous decision, and then maybe just has to move on, keeps working with Andy Lee, and goes about his the rest of his career. Maybe puts this one behind him, maybe runs it back in a couple years to, you know, clean it up properly, if that's the case. Who knows? But yeah, that's my sort of opinion on this one. Please let me know yours down below. There's going to be more videos today. The Johnny Nelson interview coming up. They're also doing live watch-alongs for both nights of WrestleMania for those who are interested in that, provided the Wi-Fi in my hotel holds out, so pray for me on that one. With that being, there's also I was going to do a couple episodes as well while I'm here. I still might do, especially on Sunday, but if not, we will be doing a live on Tuesday when I'm back on ends, and there's a few things that I was going to do in episodes. If I don't do them, we're definitely going to talk about those on the lives. We're going to get back to regular scheduled programming. Thank you for everyone who's been rocking with me. Apologies, there was no content last week. As I said, you were supposed to get Fight Talk live on the channel, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. But yeah, like, subscribe and share. I'll catch you on the next one, but for right now, Spaces Picks locked.